Welcome to Walts Wanderings, where in each episode I will take you along as I explore the world. In this week's episode, we're going to my hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. When I was young, the slogan of Pittsburgh was Pittsburgh, someplace special. And in this week's episode, we're going to look at a few things you may not know about Pittsburgh that do indeed make it special. As much time as I've spent in Pittsburgh, I'm sure it will warrant a few episodes of Walt's Wanderings in the months to come, but today we will just be wetting our toes in the three rivers that make the Steel City special. There'll be lots to say in future installments, but for today we'll look at some of the things that make Pittsburgh unique. Years ago, I wrote an essay for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette asking where Pittsburgh is. It's not the Midwest, that starts with Ohio, 40 miles west, and it's definitely not the East Coast. There's a mountain range and a large difference in attitude that separate it from the eastern end of the Keystone State, let alone the Jersey Shore. Pittsburgh is its own special world, and there are quirky things in Pittsburgh that reflect that uniqueness. Most visitors to Pittsburgh ride one of the inclines, or at least observe one of the funiculars climbing up the steep slope of Mount Washington. But they often don't take the time to look at some of the amazing architecture the city has to offer, a topic I will cover in a future installment, or to learn some of Pittsburgh's diverse nature that stands out even in the naming of its bridges. Three almost identical bridges called the Three Sisters span the Allegheny River from downtown to the north side. I took this photo from Mount Washington when I was a child, and Three Rivers Stadium was still standing. The first three bridges going north up the Allegheny were then called the 6th, 7th, and 9th Street Bridges. Now those bridges are named for three of Pittsburgh's most beloved heroes, Roberto Clemente, Andy Warhol, and Rachel Carson, respectively. Each of the three contributed a special, enduring legacy to their field. What had been the 9th Street Bridge is named for Rachel Carson, and a short 15-mile or so trek up the Allegheny River will take you to Springdale, Rachel Carson's birthplace. Her interest in nature and the environment was due in large part to her observing life along the river. Sadly, outside of Pittsburgh, Rachel Carson seems all but forgotten. Her groundbreaking book, Silent Spring, written while she was dying of cancer, led to the banning of the pesticide DDT, to the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, and the entire environmental awakening of the 1970s. Recently in Mexico, I met a woman whose husband teaches sustainable agriculture at the University of Saskatchewan in Canada, and she said he makes sure his students read Silent Spring. It is still that relevant. The next bridge you'll encounter as you head south down the river is named for pop artist Andy Warhol. The Andy Warhol Museum is on the north side, so walking across his namesake bridge will take you directly to it. A side note about the Warhol Museum, I had never visited until I was asked to write about it. I'm not a big fan of Andy Warhol's art. Like Mr. Rogers, I am within a few degrees of separation from the famous artist, but that is not uncommon with a city as tightly woven as Pittsburgh was. But I never really got the Warhol art. Like Picasso, I could appreciate the talent it took to create such pieces, but it just wasn't my taste, as though I could afford those paintings anyway. But the Warhol Museum is one of the best museums I've ever visited. It does such an excellent job of presenting the story of the man and his creations. It walks the visitor through his life and art, the wide range of media he conquered, and the lasting impact he had on the world of fashion, the arts, and pop culture. I came away with an appreciation of him that I had never had before. Even if you're not a Warhol fan, the museum is worth visiting just to see an example of what all great museums should strive for. Andy Warhol is buried in St. John the Baptist Byzantine Catholic Church in Bethel Park. Strangely, even though that cemetery is walking distance where I grew up, I've never visited it. In fairness, Andy was not laid to rest next to his parents there until long after I had moved away. On the anniversary of his birth and death, fans line his grave with Campbell's soup cans, which if you know his art, seems appropriate. Roberto Clemente played his last games at Three Rivers Stadium, and I, along with thousands of other fans, walked across the bridge that now bears his name to see him play. I had also seen him play at Forbes Field, and I once had the privilege of interviewing Vern Law, one of Clemente's teammates who won 2 games for the Bucks in their 1960 World Series victory over the Yankees. Clemente loved his adopted city and once said, "In a way, I was born twice. I was born in 1934 and then again in 1955 when I came to Pittsburgh. I am thankful to say I have lived 2 lives." Walking across the river on Pittsburgh's North Shore, not far from the stadiums, is a tribute to another one of Pittsburgh's favorite people, Fred Rogers. known to millions of children, and many of whom are now adults, as Mr. Rogers. People often knit sweaters and put them on his statue along the river. Cardigans, as Fred would have liked. They don't last long in the harsh elements, but it's a nice gesture. I had the privilege of meeting Fred a few times, and he's exactly the kind, gentle man he portrayed on television for so many years. My meetings with him were before everyone had a camera in their pockets at all times, so I never got a selfie with him. There was a memorial to Mr. Rogers in the Pittsburgh airport, but I understand it has been removed for renovation, but I hope it returns. It's a nice way to welcome visitors to the neighborliness of Pittsburgh. There's a museum dedicated to Fred and his work on the campus of St. Vincent College in Mr. Rogers' hometown of Latrobe, Pennsylvania, about 40 miles east. The other two tributes to the airport also reflect the eclectic mix that is Pittsburgh. There is a statue of Colonel George Washington. Yes, Colonel George Washington. As a colonel in the British Army, he helped take Fort Duquesne from the French and rechristen it Fort Pitt for the British. The Fort Pitt blockhouse still stands in Point State Park. Built in 1764, it is the oldest building west of the Allegheny Mountains. Some of these photos, such as the one of Three River Stadium and this one of the old blockhouse, are ones I took as a child, and they're showing their age a bit, as I suppose am I. The other tribute in the airport is to Franco Harris and the Immaculate Reception. If you are not familiar with that, one of the most famous plays in the history of professional football, Google it. The whole play is on YouTube. More than winning one game, that play symbolized the turnaround for the Steelers, who had gone to win 4 Super Bowls in the 1970s. More on that and one of the greatest baseball plays in history, Bill Mazeroski's walk-off homer to win the 1960 World Series, in a future episode of Walts Wanderings. I like that in the background of these photos in the airport, you can see ads for Heinz and UPMC, two Pittsburgh mainstays. I got to meet Franco at a Penn State event, and by then, of course, I had a phone with a camera. Whenever I fly into Pittsburgh, I like seeing the surprise of people who are arriving at the airport for the first time, and they do a double take of the odd pairing of our running back and our first president at the top of the escalators. Many people delay their run to baggage claim to take photos, me among them, obviously. Have you ever visited Pittsburgh? Who is the most legendary athlete you've ever seen play? Let me know in the comments. In future installments, I will talk about other aspects of Pittsburgh, including how deep my roots go with the working people who built the Steel City, the amazing architecture that has made Pittsburgh world famous, and the sports legacy that has played an important role in the city and my family. But the next episode of Waltz Wanderings will take us to Baja California, Mexico, to meet the Hermit of Desengueno.